Do you have a dream of becoming a scientist? You have a dream of working in any field that is biology related, and now you feel your dream is running away from you because you think you're not wise enough. Well, I'm Joanna, and I have been there, and I have been able to major in biological sciences. I once thought I was not wise enough. So I've opened up this channel to teach weak students, particularly those who think they can really know, they don't get any concepts. So I'm making these videos. At the end of the day, you'll be able to pass or excel in biology. Let's get into it. So first of all, if you were to understand biology, you need to understand what it is. Like, what is biology itself? Biology, right? So this is just a word which can be broken down into two parts. First of all, we have a Greek word that we call bios, right? Bios is a Greek word to mean life, right? Bios. Then logy, it's a word to mean study. It's an English word, I guess, to mean study. So whenever you're talking about biology, or whenever someone says biology, you need to think of life and then study. At the end of the day, biology will simply mean, study of life. You're studying life. We know very well that in this world there are two things that exist. We have the things that are non-living and the things that are living. So everything that has life is living. So in biology, we are going to handle only those things with life. Do you understand? So when we look at things that have life and those things that do not have life, they can be differentiated. We need to ask ourselves, how are living things differentiated from non-living things? There must be a criteria that people base on to say, this thing has got life and this thing is non-living. So that is the next step that we need to understand. When you understand the two things, it's tricky how fast you grasp the rest of the content. What are those things that you look at and you say, this thing is living and the other is non-living? For the years that I've studied biology, I've come to understand that all the biology that we study, from ordinary biology to advanced biology, then to that biology where we have careers, right? The biology is all summed up in the characteristics of all living things. It's what we study about. Keep it in mind that from the moment I start studying biology, I'm only studying the characteristics of living things, and I'll show you how it happens. Whether you're in medical school, at least somehow, it's what you're still studying, right? So these are things that were analyzed and were laid down to differentiate living things, things with life, from the non-living things. We call them the characteristics of all living things, those things that show us that this is living and this is non-living. This has life and the other one has no life. Characteristics. Characteristics of all living things. Number one, we are going to observe living things. What do I mean? Organization. Organization. Things that are living have a certain design. There is a way there's a certain way in which they are made. And in this I mean that all things that are living, they are made up of cells. They're made up of cells. Or you can say every living thing has a cell. A cell is the basic unit of life. It's just one characteristic. And this is where we study what we call cell biology. The biology of a cell. Do you know how many textbooks have been published just handling cell biology? You can't relate. And the organization, after understanding that they are either made up of a cell or cells, we classify them. And under this, you'll find out that you'll end up studying what we call taxonomy, the science of classification. I told you, once you understand the characteristics of living things, you have all the biology at your fingertips. This is one thing that helped me study and eventually pass and eventually graduate. I was not wise, I just had a plan. So, organization. They are made up of cells, or every living thing has a cell. Some are unicellular, some are multicellular, name it, cell biology. All living things, we agree, they have cells. Number two, there is something called metabolism. Metabolism in all living things. Someone would say, what is metabolism? I've never heard of that. You know, metabolism, some people say it is there are chemical reactions that occur inside the body of an organism so that it is able to sustain life. But I say metabolism refers to biochemical reactions occurring in an organism so that it is able to sustain life at the end of the day. Some you may say a total of biochemical reactions occurring in an organism in order to sustain biochemical, it is all happening inside the body of an organism. You look at all living things. At some point, we have these biochemical reactions happening in their cells in order to sustain life, so that they are alive. Those are two characteristics. So under metabolism, you're going to have catabolic reactions, anabolic reactions. Under biochemical reactions, it's where you're going to study things like respiration, photosynthesis, name it. I'm showing you how biology is so simple, yet we call it hard. So under metabolism, there's a lot to study. A lot of books that have been published just about these biochemical reactions that happen in the body in order for an organism to sustain life. Number 3, what do you think? Another thing that was observed, because science is all about observation. At the end of the day, we perform experiments and we prove what we have observed. So, number 3, one of the things that was observed is that all living things, things that have life, they move. Movement. Now, movement is the displacement in space. Displacement in space of all parts of an organism's body. Movement. All living things move. If we are to cite out examples of things that have life, we have the plants, we have the animals, but at the end of the day, you're going to find out that all these things do move. Somebody will be like, I've never seen a plant move. Plants move. For example, we can have roots growing towards a water source. That's a kind of movement. We can also have what we call locomotion in animals. Locomotion. Specifically in animals. Locomotion in animals. Why do we call it locomotion? The whole body of the organism is moving from one place to another. So all these living things do move. And there is a lot of books that have been published just talking about movement and locomotion. Many people have had their majors under this. That's how simple is biology. You just need to understand the characteristics. Then, number 4. It was observed that all living organisms do reproduce. Reproduction. What is reproduction? This is the ability to give off offsprings to ensure continuity of an organism. For example, just imagine you have grandparents. They lived and gave birth to you. You're also going to give off an offspring and you eventually die, and then those people will continue. So all these organisms have been able to ensure their continuity through reproduction. They all reproduce. I can think of nutrition, stroke feeding. All living things feed. What is nutrition? As to the various ways in which organisms obtain, obtain and absorb, you can say, and absorb nutritive material or food, food, in order to sustain life. How you obtain your food is important. How you absorb it, and at the end of the day, sustain life. So you find out that in all living things we have modes of feeding and nutrition. A lot of books have been published just about this. Number 6. In all living things we have what we call heredity. I look just like my mother because I'm living and my mother passed on genetic material to me. So this is where organisms, where parents pass on traits to the next generation. They pass on traits to the next generation. Heredity happens in all living organisms. Number 7, I can think of adaptation. Adaptation through evolution. You'll find out that we are all living things, but we look different. It's not a mess. We are made in such a way that we suit the environments that we live in. For example, I don't need wings because I'm not going to fly, right? So that is adaptation. You find out that every organism that is living is adapted to their environment. All living things undergo what we call growth and development. Growth and development, this refers to increase in size and complexity of an organism. So they all grow. Just like I'm no longer small anymore, I grew up. We all grow and we develop. Number 9, all living things are going to be sensitive. And they're going to respond to stimuli. So that is what we call sensitivity. Sensitivity and irritability. You respond to changes in your environment. Respond to stimuli in the environment. Response to stimuli. That is called coordination. Lastly, I can think of excretion and homeostasis. Excretion and homeostasis. We all know that all living things do excrete. This is getting rid of waste products of metabolism out of their bodies. Homeostasis is just being able to maintain a constant internal environment regardless of the fluctuations in the outside environment. For example, it's hot. It is very hot. And when you look at my body, all my blood vessels are dilated. And why I taught you today the characteristics of living things, I wanted to show you that all the biology that you have studied and will ever study is wrapped up in those 10 characteristics of living things. So, in the next video, we are going to study the organization of living things, and particularly we are going to be handling cell biology, and we shall go deeper from the ordinary to the advanced. What makes biology hard is it is just because it is wide. So if we have a plan of studying it in a certain way, eventually we can achieve, right? We can achieve our goals and we can understand it. See you next week. Thank you.